Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. We got CPI in about 2 minutes. Just want to show you here on the charts really quick. Treasury's having a little bit of a recovery in the overnight, but now selling going into this news. And gold and silver also kind of selling going into this news. So it looks like some people are maybe hedging themselves. Goldman, the analysts believe. Did I not even show what? You didn't even get to see. It's very small. There's not all that much to see, right? We are moving down. Goldman analysts are actually predicting the numbers come in a little bit higher than consensus. But I don't anticipate this actually being a huge mover today. The implied volatility that the options are showing is like the lowest that we've seen for CPI for like a year. So hold on here, I'm not getting my news squawk correctly, so let's see if I can fix that. The key number we're looking at is core CPI month over month. They're looking for a reading of spot 4. Well, the liquidity definitely is pulling. Big old spike here. Core CPI in line with expectations at spot 4%. That is a much larger move off of that, though, than I anticipated. All the numbers are in line. There must have been a lot of people hedging for that, man, because that is just crazy. Okay. That is interesting. I definitely got that one wrong, didn't I? I mean, I got correct what the numbers were going to be, that they weren't going to be all that interesting. But I was not expecting too much movement off of it. The treasuries just shot out of here, man. Wow. I've never seen the market move that much on numbers being in line with expectations. And they're actually pushing further. They're actually pushing further here too. So I think that they're probably going to come in here and start predicting that that there is no hike in June, right? I mean that's probably what's going on here. I'm surprised that it's that much of a move in the main treasuries. Wow. I don't think there's any way I can jump on that one. I don't think there's any way I can jump on that one. So let's just watch it. It looks like maybe they overdid it a little bit there. There's a big order there at 23 now. Well, let's see here. That puts silver up 1% on the day. Wowzer. Gold not up as quite as much, 0.48. Biggest loser today, natural gas and copper. So this could be a key time to keep an eye on the dollar index here, right? We're down a quarter or so. They're having a hard time keeping that thing down. They haven't taken out that big order at 23, but I mean, look at this thing. You're definitely seeing steepening on this move too. That it was much more pronounced in the 5-year. I mean, just look at, since I've reset it, how high up the 5-year is compared to the 10 and the 30. I'm not seeing a lot of traders on Twitter talking. Mohammed El Rain numbers are out. Both headline and core came in at spot 4% month over month. Annual CPI rose by 4.9% headline and 5.5% core. Well, here's one guy. I don't know who this is, but they're being retweeted by somebody I'm following named Joe Weisenthal. This is Dom White, says core CPI comes in soft when a lot of V-informed people thought the risk was of a hot number. And that's despite a big jump in used car prices. The tightening cycle is over, in my honest opinion. Probably it is. I'm just I'm still a little surprised by how far it moved. So I'm seeing my news squawk talk about the probability of a June rate hike dropping. But what I'm way more interested in is what are the probabilities of seeing a decrease in July? Oh man, there's some real buying coming into the 5-year here. Are they gonna push further? I didn't catch it, Octavius. Did they trade that big order at 23? I don't see it anymore. Ate it like a donut. I wish I had my eye on the 5-year there, because it looks like there was a pretty big almost 5,000K bot sweep through there, but I can't see it on the DOM anymore. Yeah, I use Rhythmic, Andre. That is correct. Man, these ones are so hard to trade because this doesn't look like it's slowing down, and I want to jump on so badly, but I am terrified of doing it. This is just like an insane move. This is an insane move, and I was like I think I'm way off. Oh, that's funny. I jumped into the Financial Juice server because they were talking about the June probabilities, and I'm like, what about July and after that? I find that interesting too. And somebody recognized me, so that's cool. I haven't gotten to the point where, like people on the street would recognize you. That would maybe be a little scary to me, but I'm really glad that other traders in the community recognize me. Because sometimes I feel like I don't get around as much as I should. So looking here at what I can see from the Fed tool, it does look like the chances of a rate decrease in July has increased a little bit. Okay. So I'm feeling a little bit bad. I'm feeling like really sick today. Like I am coughing up a lung, man. I'm feeling a little bit better now that I got my breakfast out of the way. I'd say this is still, I think, a little bit too hot for me to touch. I'm really concerned about retracements on this move. But so far, the volume, particularly in the 5-year, continues to come in long. So I don't know if this is one I could jump on, but it sure is going. I guess when I look at the move, it's only like a 4 basis point move down, so it's not actually that huge on the interest rate, at least in the 10-year. There's the 5-year. Looks like it's gonna go again. The activity level on the level 2 though is a little bit lackluster for to have another break at least. If they did have another break, I think it would catch a couple of people off guard. Well, let's see here. Let me come back to our schedule. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. We do have a 10-year note auction. That's probably the most important thing for us to watch here in the treasuries, is for signs of, trade on that. And I guess it's Wednesday, so we get oil. No, I do have Joe Biden speaks at 11:30 on a U.S. default. I do think, the market may have been waiting somewhat on what they would get from congressional leaders yesterday, but kind of, I don't know if they actually made any, it was progress that they met, but it doesn't sound like they actually accomplished anything at that meeting that they had yesterday. So the dollar just kind of hit and bounced off of a pretty round number at 101. So that may be a spot where you could see at least temporary support. So I definitely don't like the idea of trying to go long here on a continuation. I don't know. Maybe a reversal here would make sense. You know what? How about, because we want to do something fun. How about for the sim account here, we gamble with a reversal. because I should be able to pull out a few ticks here. This screams retracement. I don't know if it, so the difficulty here is, okay, so when you come up to a spot like that, that is a great spot for somebody to go short if they wanted to go against this. I'm not quite sure I see what the reason is to go short against this. Did the market overreact? Maybe. But I wouldn't even say it's an overreaction. I think it's, you know, the market moved up probably more than is justified by the fundamentals, because there was apparently a decent number of people going short the treasuries, expecting the CPI number to be a little hot. So, you know, so maybe we're a little bit above where the fundamentals would suggest. It doesn't mean that we're going to come back down. Like, who would be selling it? I have a hard time seeing anybody like really selling this hard, you know? But it's in the prime position to do it. It's probably going to come back a little bit, right? I'll be right back. I need to wash my hands. I feel food on them. Okay, so what I'm seeing here now, after a brief little bounce at 101, we have now probed beyond 101 in the dollar. So we'll see where that goes. You know, when I look at the euro, it looks like the euro is still going. So, because probably if we want to get a retracement, I think that it would have to be some retracement in the dollar, right? Okay, so I'll try and take another tick there. A little bit too difficult to get filled there. By the way, do you see how my my average position ends up being right at the point of control? That is not intentional at all. That's just what will tend to happen, is you will see like where the hole is and where the volume's going off at. And, you know, you start building a position, it's very often going to be the middle of that range, right? Well, I tell you what, so far that second contract worked out really well. I probably should have held that one on. This is a hard, in terms of a call, like what it's going to do. I think this is a hard call. But yeah, hard enough that I'm not confident in like trading it live for sure. So we'll work out this on a sim order and see what happens. Because I see it as an area that will be fun to play in and something can happen, even though I'm not really sure what's going to happen. .9% inflation is good news. Got it. Well, so I don't know if that's really what the market is trying to say, to be honest. Wow, that one worked even better. Are you kidding me? I saw that big order and I thought, oh, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if that big order pulls or they trade through it, and they did. And then I almost immediately got filled. Pretty much any news that comes out, buy stocks after this war. Oh, wow. Yeah, well, so let's go back. Let's talk about this, okay? What moves markets? Okay, do patterns on the charts, are those what moves markets? Some people act like that's what they believe, but we don't have any evidence to support that. Any kind of pattern that we see in the market tends to disappear. Like, the market is very statistically efficient. Okay, so then is it the fundamentals that move the markets? Well, I don't think anybody thinks that the fundamentals directly move the markets, right? Like I think the most naive approach here would be when that number comes out, the market has to move to like what the number suggests after they do all of their calculations, what the number suggests that interest rates in the S&P 500 should be, and all those sorts of things, right? But it doesn't take very long to realize that that can't be what's going on, because you look at it and you say, okay, this is what the number is. High inflation, for instance, 5% inflation. Is that positive for the economy? Is keeping interest rates at 5.25 for 9 months like a good thing for the economy? Probably not, right? Okay, so then we have to come to like a pricing in kind of theory. Like, okay, the market doesn't exactly know what's going to happen, but the market can try and price things in. The market can try and say, okay, I think that it's going to be this, and based on these probabilities, I'm willing to pay this price, but there is a possibility that it does something else. And then if I come in and the number is different, I adjust my expectations accordingly. This is kind of like the pricing in theory of markets, right? Okay, well, that is kind of what's going on. But even then, I've seen these situations where, like, okay, the market was expecting this, they got this, and then you got a big move or you didn't get a big move, and it still doesn't make sense. I think this is one of those situations, right? All of the numbers were in line with the consensus expectation. Apparently, the consensus expectation was not the consensus expectation. It looks to me like there was a lot of guys short going into this news, right? But if the number came out in line with expectation, then from some of these more naive models, the market shouldn't have moved at all, right? But that's not the case, because what actually moves markets? Orders move markets. Orders move markets. And if you know what orders are going to come out, you know where the market's going to go. So you can come in and you can say, if X thousand contracts come in and sell here, here's the impact that it's going to have on price. And you can actually calculate these things pretty accurately. Accurately enough that there are people over at block trading desks that are making a lot of money, you know, estimating these sorts of things, okay? So in this situation, number came out in line with expectation. I don't think that was actually the market expectation, but just, you know, that's not a critical point. The critical point here is that there was a lot of orders that had to come out long off of that news, right? Now we've kind of come to like the extent, like the market can only go so far. So there could be a situation where the news that we just got suggests that we should move twice or 3 times as far as we just did, right? But the market won't be able to do it because of the liquidity. It lacks, you know, the liquidity won't let it get that far. It has to come up, it has to rest a little bit, and then it can go again, okay? Right? So that could happen. We're about the point where if there was going to be another leg, we would start to see it. I'm not seeing it. We're also well past the point that if I was going to come in and like really short it hard, you know, I think that guy would have already come in. So more likely what we'll see is playing around in this range. And that's why it's like I can build a position in here and take contracts over and over again as it moves across in this range. And I can hold out hope for maybe somebody will come in and sell it really hard and it'll come back, or that the correlation with the dollar will shift around and that will move the treasuries down, right? But it's all about orders. I'm trying to predict what the orders are going to come out off of this, right? So my prediction is that we already saw the orders long from the people that were speculating or hedging themselves against a high CPI number. I think that's all of the buys that you're going to get today. Now, the other flow that you got to keep an eye on is that there's a treasury auction today. And so you often will see orders come in and hedging on the treasuries. I don't know. I kind of feel like that 3.45 is a little bit too low. Like, I would have a hard time going to the auction today and trying to, you know, justify buying it for 3.45. Just me. Right? And then we can also take advantage of the stylized behavior of markets to kind of say, okay, yeah, there's going to be a liquidity hole. We're going to trade across this a little bit. I can take advantage of it to at least build out a position. Fair? Yeah, cumulative delta for the day is not too blockbuster. Well, it certainly is not in ZN. In ZN, it was what, -25 to -7. So it was about 12K, right? Then we go to the 5-year, it went from 30 to 15, so 15,000. But like, look, they are back to the bottom end of this range for sure. We'll see if they push all the way back. I mean, the dollar is bouncing there. So far, this is turning out pretty good. So far, this is like you should have taken it live, Seth. You know what? I've been off for a couple of days. I think I want to get my feet underneath me a little bit. Plus, my voice doesn't feel very good. I'm feeling a little bit sick. So, unfortunately, how you feel is also a really important part of the trading, right? And so I'm a little uncomfortable putting on risk because I do not feel my best. But so far that one did work really well. So I think that, you know, our understanding of what is going on in the market at the moment is pretty decent so far. There's been this story I keep seeing in the local news about a Salt Lake City council member getting drunk and getting into an accident. And I can't remember if I know this lady or not. I feel like that was one of the people that was running at the time when I was really active in the politics and that we maybe helped her, but I just can't remember. The name certainly seems familiar. So the things in Seth's head that are distracting him at the moment. Right. Okay, so but I am kind of seeing the activity like die off here, so I am going to take the quick profit. If it comes back up here, I guess maybe I might try playing it some more, but it'll be a blockbuster trade if it comes all the way back down, but I don't know if that's a gamble I'm willing to make. I think that would take a little bit more order flow than I'm expecting, when I'm kind of expecting the flows to just kind of like stagnate here a bit. My goal is to close at 1250. I don't want to be anywhere near the auction. For sure. The auction definitely represents for us like an event of extreme uncertainty. whenever the auction happens and afterwards, I'm like, oh, okay. I think that totally makes sense now, what's going on. But does it really actually make sense, or am I just like making stuff up in my head after the fact to make myself feel good? Because I certainly can't predict what's going to happen with the auction. I'm sure there are people that know way more about the auction and like what's going on there, but I don't know how they figure that stuff out. You know, I think that I would have to have been involved in the auction process a few times, and I could be sitting down and saying, well, here's what I'm doing and here's what other people may have done, and this is, you know, it's a complicated thing. That said, I've certainly had some times where I had a big winner, like say I had got long on the CPI and had a big winner on it so far, like I already had $30-40 banked in, and I hold it through to the auction, and then the auction just extends your profits, and it's just insane move. I've definitely had that happen too. Yeah, you have to actually trade bonds on the desk to know what's going on. I don't feel like I am, Lucas. So yesterday, well, I'm definitely better than yesterday. I don't know what happened. My leading theory on what happened to me yesterday, because that's like the third or fourth time that's happened to me while I've done the stream. I think that what's happening is, like, I drank some lemonade before I ate anything, and so I think what happens is the liquid hits my stomach and, you know, goes into my blood right away. And because I work out so hard and all of these other things, I think that I have a pretty responsive insulin response. I don't know if that's actually a good thing. Because my family does have a history of diabetes, so I'm concerned that even though I'm skinny, that I could get diabetes later in life. Anyways, so I think what happens is that lemonade hits my system, and then my body releases the insulin, and it just eats up all of the sugar in my blood, and that's why I get that way. Is I'm getting you know, I'm reeling from like low blood sugar, and basically I have to sit it out until the other food that I ate actually gets far enough down the digestive tract to do it, because it seems like it's like a drink or something really sugary that does it, right? Yeah, you need more sugar. Well, and presumably in that situation, continuing to drink a sugary drink would maybe help a little bit, but anyways. So I'm not feeling that today, and I was able to resolve the issue with me not being able to get my ADHD medication. I just had them send in for a larger dose of it, and I just cut the pills in half, and I was able to get some that way. So I'm a lot more focused. You can tell it's easier for me to talk and things like that today, right? But I'm also coming down with something. I did cough up a little bit of yellow-green stuff this morning. I don't think that it's just allergies. In fact, my sons have fevers. Asher has a fever. Man, when he has a fever, he just wants to sit on the couch and watch TV, and he'll put himself to bed early. It's crazy. Kind of funny. So I think I am coming down with something. So that's why I've been a little bit on the defensive side today in terms of like how much risk I want to take on, because I don't feel like I'm at my best. Like I probably, and this is kind of a little bit more experience, because at the moment I feel like a champion. Like in terms of like my ability to see what's going on in the market and make a decision and take on risk, I feel like a champion. But I just know from experience that I'm not a very good judge of that. And I know what's been going on with me, and based on what's been going on with me, I might be a little bit vulnerable in that area. So I'm being hesitant to put risk on because of that. That coupled with that, I'm not very confident that this is a good opportunity for me. I mean, we jumped up really, really big off of the initial move, and then it's kind of been this mess area, right? Which isn't necessarily the best trading for me. So I listened to about a bond trader that bet on the auction because there was a blizzard in Massachusetts when it was happening, and he bet people would leave early for the day, so there would be something like a huge tail on the auction. I don't really know what that means, but that's why I stay away. Okay, so let me explain to you what a tail in the auction means. So a tail, and I forget what they call the other one. It's like, I think they call it stopping through. But basically, if you look at what the futures were saying the interest rate was just before the auction, and then compare that to the actual number that comes out, that is the tail, as I understand it. And so what that essentially means is that there was too little. So a tail in particular means that there was not enough demand at the auction, and the interest rate had to rise. The treasuries fall. Interest rate had needed to rise in order for the government to generate enough demand to sell all of the bonds that they had out there. Because the way that the auction works is like everybody puts their bids in, right? And then they kind of like sort it all out. So, and I think there's maybe a little bit of a live part, but I don't really understand how that all works. But so, you know, you come in and you look at, okay, here's the current price, and so all of those guys get filled, and then you just keep moving down and down and down until like everybody's until they've sold them all. And so you can almost think of it as like the treasury coming in and just selling a ton of treasuries all at once, right? And sometimes the market isn't able to handle it, and so that's when you see a tail and the market drops a bit. Vice versa on the stop through side, that there's way more than enough bids out there, and so they lower the interest rate and raise the price because there's too many bids or whatever, right? So what does that mean for the auction today? Well, the thing is you have to be able to predict what the demand for it is actually going to be, and there's all sorts of little details about it that we're usually not paying attention to. So like Akshay has pointed some of these things out to us a few times, right? Like sometimes there are properties about that particular QSIP that's coming out that makes them particularly attractive. Like they're like special in repo or something like that. And so you get more, or maybe there's a certain part of the curve that's more attractive at the time. Right. And then I think what you can do is you can go, and they have all of these calculations that they use to figure out what is a fair price, right? And you could look at all of the assumptions that you're using to make what a fair price is. And you could say, oh, well, okay, here's the assumptions that I like to use. But maybe there's this other bank, and I know that they tend to use this assumption, and so this is probably what they're pricing in, and all of these things. And you could like work all of those things out and kind of come up with a rough estimate as to what the demand at the auction actually will be, right? So that's definitely where, like, yeah, if you were on a bond desk, you'd probably understand a lot more about that. And there is research out there that does try and estimate these things, but I usually don't get them on the news squawk until like just before the auction, if at all. So that said, you know, they kind of came to the bottom end of that range, backed off a little bit, went flat. Activity is almost completely dried up in the treasury. So next thing we get is in 5 minutes, the S&P 500 starts. And we should keep a close eye on that dollar. The dollar hitting a low of a 100.95 and now bouncing back 20 cents. Oh, definitely. I've got like thick mucus coming down, like going deep into my lungs now. And that's after only a day. I'm a little concerned. I'm a little concerned at how much I've gotten sick over the past 6 months. Because we got sick at least 3 or 4 times in the winter. And I kind of thought that we're over it. And now I got sick in March. I guess I'm just not getting enough exposure because I'm at home too much. Vitamin D deficiency. That would make me too sick? But isn't vitamin D the one that you get from sunlight? Because I have definitely been outside a lot. Nah, I think I'm getting enough. I think I'm getting enough outside time. I've been working a lot in the yard. I think that I'm not interacting with people enough. No, I did not. I was not vaccinated. A spike detox? Wait. How do you do a spike detox? Well, this be interesting. How would you? Because I mean, I think I understand a lot about this whole spike protein and thing and everything, and a couple of things about the science that kind of does make it like, well, there are some problems with, let's say, both the vaccine and or actually catching coronavirus that can have long-term negative implications for you. Because those spikes are like the spike protein that the virus uses to get into your cells is actually like in and of itself harmful. And so if there was a way to truly detox yourself from it that actually had some science behind it, that would be really interesting. Orange juice winter. I have been trying to get more greens and stuff, and getting the flavonoids that seems to help me a little bit. I was actually, so one of the things was that I had sometimes where in the afternoons I did kind of feel like I had a brain fog, and I would get times where I feel like I have a brain fog when I'm working out. Like, you know, I'll do the lift and I feel like I'm gonna pass out. And at one point I thought, oh, it must be, you know, the allergies making me a little bit weaker there during that time. And, you know, some of the medications that I on kind of do things with your blood pressure. Wow, they're moving here. Looks like they're moving down here on the open of the S&P, but we'll see if that continues through. But and now I have a new theory, which is that the medication that I take kind of pushes the salt out of you. And so what I really need to be doing is I need to be getting a lot more salt in me before I go and work out. And probably, especially when it's hot outside and I'm sweating, I'm probably losing a lot of salt, and that's probably negatively impacting my workout and maybe giving me brain fog later in the day. Yeah, you do have kids though, kids in school. Yeah, and this is another reason why I think it's that, is that my kids will get sick and then I'll immediately get it. Like my daughter, I think my daughter was the one that caught it, and now the two boys have it, right? And so my two boys, that not stepkids ones, they don't get out much at all, you know. They're not interacting with a lot of people, and so they're probably really vulnerable. And then because they get it sick, then there's enough of it around that I get sick. And I'm probably, because of all of my my allergies and other immune system problems, I would be less likely to get sick because I have like an overly active immune system. But that's probably canceled out by I'm just getting too much exposure from the kids. Right. Whereas if I was going into the office every day, I would be catching a little bit more of like gentle exposure all the time, and so I would be building up the immunity. Because before COVID, I like almost never got sick. I almost never got sick. Oh, the allergies are so bad. I actually feel like I'm doing pretty okay today because my eyes were not watering too much. My nose feels pretty dry. But, you know, the question did come in like, well, is it just me reacting to allergies? But I think not, because I did get some pretty gross stuff out this morning. It has to go near like a water area if you're outside or water around your house. I really, you know, so yesterday I did a couple of extra things to like the garden and stuff. It's still got a lot of gravel. Maybe I need to get rid of all the gravel before I start bringing people over to my house, but I feel really strongly that teamwork is an important value, and that like the ties in relationships that you can have, especially with people in your local area, are like really important. And I don't feel like that I really live that value very well. I'm not regularly doing things with people. We like to keep to ourselves. I don't think that's right. And it's kind of hard because like the society is kind of isolated itself, you know? So I'll tell you what's something that I've been thinking about that kind of is like really brought this to the forefront of my mind, and maybe why I've been thinking about it today is my autistic son, Asher. He hasn't been diagnosed autistic, but we're pretty sure that he's autistic, and he's getting tested right now. And he's gotten into the mode of like, I will just watch one show obsessively. So when he was a baby, it was Cars. He just always loved to watch Cars, and Cars was always good for him. Okay. Lately, he has branched out to the other Pixar films. So he did Monsters Inc. for a little while. There was a couple of days where it was like nothing but Monsters Inc. But now for the past like week, he has been stuck watching The Incredibles. He just always wants us to put on The Incredibles, and if you put anything else on, he complains. Programming, right? So I've been watching a lot of The Incredibles, and I think that The Incredibles, I mean, I think that all of the Pixar films, like, here's something that I think a lot of people in Hollywood don't get, is that the storytelling itself is like this art form. And why is storytelling become such a great part, a significant part of who we are? It's because that's like the big innovative advantage that our species has developed, is the ability to pass on experience to other individuals through storytelling. And that's what allows us, like an octopus, okay? Octopus is super, super smart. If you want to watch a good, oh man, I can't remember the full name of this documentary, but there's this documentary on Netflix about octopus, where this guy develops a relationship with an octopus. And it goes on for like several years, and he just records this octopus. And it's amazing how intelligent this creature is, right? But what happens is the octopus will mate, and then the octopus dies, and then its children go on. And so, like, there is absolutely no transfer of knowledge and information to the next generation, right? If octopuses had storytelling, maybe they would be as advanced as we are, but they don't. That's the thing that I think really sets us apart, right? And so Pixar, I think, at least in the beginning, really understood this storytelling as a way to, like, teach people important lessons about life and things that you're going to commonly come into, right? People kind of turned it into, I can use the storytelling to kind of support my agenda, and I find that it doesn't work, because the actual, like, there doesn't end up being a real moral to the story that people find is genuine and accurate to them in their lives, right? But I think that The Incredibles is interesting amongst the Pixar films, because it seems to be the most, of all of the other shows, it's the one that has the most feeling of, like, there's something I'm supposed to get out of this show. Like, you can just feel it when you're watching it. I'm supposed to get something. This is talking about big ideas, and I should pay attention, and that I'm going to get something that's important to my life out of this show. Yeah. So I think that people liked the show when it came out, because there's a lot of this theme of we should allow exceptional people to be exceptional. That the society wants everybody to be special, which means nobody is special. And look, that's definitely like a theme of the show, but I don't think that is the moral of the story. Okay? The moral of the story, because the whole, like, emotional journey that you go on is Mr. Incredible is going and doing all of this stuff on his own without his family knowing. And then he thinks that through his actions, his family dies. And so after that, he finds out that they're still alive. But after that, he's afraid to let them do anything, because he doesn't think that he's strong enough to be able to deal with them dying or whatever, right? But the whole point, I think the whole point of the film, in my opinion, is to show that Mr. Incredible is stronger because of the close ties that he has with his family and friends. That's really the whole thing, right? Is that some people want you to think that you can just rely on the system, right? Like the whole thing that got rid of the superheroes is we don't want to rely on individual people, because they can cause, they can screw up and stuff, right? Instead, we have all of these systems like insurance and all of this sort of stuff, and that will take care of you. The system will take care of you, right? And I think that the actual answer here is that no, because the system doesn't give a crap about you. The system is cold, and the system makes you feel like there's no point. Like when he was working for the insurance job, right? It is the interpersonal relationships that we have that actually makes us stronger. I think that's the point of the film, and I think that's reiterated in the second movie, where the main character is, again, doesn't like the superheroes, thinks that relying on the superheroes make you weak, and the whole thing is to show that having close communal ties makes you stronger, not weaker. I really doubt that is what a 10-year-old gets. No, I think it is. I think that it's in there, man. I'm telling you. I think it is a main theme in there that even a kid will pick up on, even if they don't realize it. Even if you don't realize it, I think that's something that is, you're picking up on and integrating into yourself. Yearly lessons would pay back. It's a fact. Oh, early life. Yeah. Yep. I think it's an important thing. And so I see it here today. I like one of the things that I find like incredibly ironic about the politics today is that it's the liberals that are always talking about community and this sort of a thing. But I don't think that the left really actually believes in community, because you look at the left's communities and their disasters, right? Like if I go to the left-leaning communities in the country, I am less likely to know who my neighbors are. I am less likely to get actual help from my neighbors. It's, you go into those areas, nobody wants to know the people that live right next to them. Yeah, as evidenced by how trashy and isolationist society has become, 40 years of parking kids in front of TVs isn't making them better. It is. It's people giving the responsibility of, I think that we have a responsibility to do teamwork and to work together with the people around us to better our community. And what has happened is we have abandoned that in favor of letting the government do it for us. And what that has resulted in is a cold, hard system that doesn't give a crap about you and doesn't do anything for you and your interpersonal relationships. And so people just become isolated, right? These people that are going out and, like committing mass shootings and stuff, like I think that those are failures of community. These are never people that have like lots of people that they're talking to every day and are trying to support them and lead them on a path and helping them. Like these are loners, right? So we cannot allow the system to trick or coerce us into giving up in interpersonal relationships. And I think that one of the problems that we're starting to see right now, or is starting to become apparent with this whole concerns about what's being taught at school, and is transgenderism like a social contagion and things like that, is what we're finding out is that we have done such a bad job at that in our society now that we're even losing our kids, but like the people that we should have the closest relationships with, and maybe we don't have very good relationships with them. And it's hard because it seems to me like the entire system is kind of set up around forcing you to be alone. Like I go and play games. Like games was one of the places where I used to talk to people the most. I know that seems stupid, but I viewed the internet as a place where I could meet people, and that's what I loved about it. And I feel like it's not that anymore. The stream is, but like that's the only place that I see on the internet where I feel like that anymore. So because when I go in on play a game, it's like you're instantly put into a queue. You're maybe matched up with somebody on a team that you're only with them for that one game. You're actually punished if you try and play with a regular group of people actively over and over again, right? Like the whole thing is set up for you to never actually develop lasting relationships. And so like when you have people, what do? Like, what would I do with my kids that would actually be interesting to them, right? Force them to sit down and watch the same TV show with me? Yeah, like I gotta get something better than that like forces them to do teamwork and stuff. Well, okay. Forcing them to go out and work in the yard with us, that is one, and I think that does help. That does help. So you gotta teach them to build things. Yeah. I'm gonna try and build a wooden gate for the stairs to prevent the baby from getting up the stairs, and maybe I should have one of the kids come with me and help me do that. I've been working together with my uncle to build this table, and I've loved doing that. I don't know what's going to happen after we do the table, but we're going to continue doing stuff. I think we got a good thing going there. Finishing drywall. It is true. But you know, like, this is another difficult thing, is that I when I look at successful societies, and I'm even going to put it into successful ethnic groups. One of the things that I see a lot in successful ethnic groups is parents feeling an obligation to teach their children how to make a living by doing what you do. There's this whole thing that, like, you create this person, and this person continues to exist generation after generation, and you're teaching the next generation of people how to be this person that fills that role. And they don't have to, hopefully, you know, because there's going to be multiple kids and they can go off and do other things. But if they choose to pursue that, you're going to help them do that. And you want at least one kid to be able to do that and replace you, right? So in other words, I would want one of my kids to be able to be good enough at trading and the streaming bit, so that when I die, there would still be a stream like this out there. You know, that would be, but like, how do I do that? Because this is not something that I think most kids are engaged in. And maybe it's going to have to just be something that after they're 18, I get them into. I don't know. But that's another thing that I've struggled with. Man, so I took 2 contracts, and this is like busting through. It looks like they're going to break some new highs again. Not everyone loves trading, by the way, until they try it. For some types, it's very stressful, yeah. Well, then I don't necessarily want them to trade, but I want them to understand financial markets. I want them to understand that it is through free markets and funding companies that the most progress happens in society. Because everybody treats the financial sector like it's a leech, right? All the people on the left, they think that financial institutions and banks add no value. They could not be further from the truth. Funding small businesses is an important part of this economy, right? This is why modern monetary theory is such a bad idea, because like a lot of the like higher level ideas about how money actually works that they have in modern monetary theory are correct. Okay, they are right that you can print a lot of money, and we don't know what the limit of that is, but it probably has something to do with debt as a percentage of GDP, and you can just tax people to take the money back out. Okay, yeah, but what's the downside of that? Well, the downside of that is that at that point, the government has almost complete control over where the money is going, and the money is not a good allocator of capital. So what happening is you're taking the money away from the people that are good at allocating it and giving it to the people that are terrible at allocating it. And as a result, you're going to have less productivity. You're already seeing it happen with this regime of like low interest rates for so long, right? Yeah, there was growth. The stock market was good. But like, look at Apple. When was the last time Apple did something great, right? Like the innovation has stagnated significantly because we're not allocating the capital very well. And then you get into this situation that we're in now, where like so many businesses just go kaput instantly as soon as the interest rates raise up, because there was never actually anything behind them, right? Banking is important because the banks are good at allocating the capital, right? And if you want to help people, then finance is a place where you really can have a significant impact, if not the most significant impact on the world in helping people. And I want to make sure that my kids understand that, and that they can come in and they will have a leg up in going into finance if they choose to go that path. If I went to zone. That was a fast sell back down there, but I don't know if that's actually going to result in anything. The S&P 500 is selling here. I'm not seeing too much of a move in the dollar, but it looks like a risk-off flow is coming in here. The big problem of no competition allowed. Corporations and big banks use DC for so many laws against anyone being able to. It's so true. This is so true. And this is the thing that drives me nuts about the politics so much, especially politics from people on the left, is people on the left will say, corporations are evil. The corporations are taking all of your value. They're exploiting your labor, etc., etc. The corporations are evil, right? It's so funny to me to watch these ones, especially on TikTok. So like, I saw this guy the other day, or it was a girl, and she was saying, no, like the workers should vote on what's going to happen. Like the community should be in charge of the means of production, and they should vote on what the business should do. Like, you can do that, right? They always act like these are like novel ideas that have never been tried before, and they are just coming out with these brilliant new ideas. And it's like, guys, like worker cooperatives, you can create a worker cooperative, and they exist all over the place. They're not the most successful businesses. There's a couple of problems with them, and there's reasons why they're not that popular, right? And so the whole thing ends up being the corporations are bad. So what we need to do is we need to give the government more power to deal with the evil corporations. No! Oh, it makes my head hurt. The problem is the politicians. Stop giving the politicians so much power. The corporations wouldn't have the ability to do all of these things if it wasn't for the politicians. Everybody complains about what the Federal Reserve is going to do. Like the Federal Reserve just reacts to the current market conditions. Who actually created this situation that we're in? The politicians did, by not having a balanced budget. Why is the politicians are just so good at deflecting everything and deflecting that angst onto everything else but them. Did you see that they arrested George Santos? Yeah. Is that really a big deal? I don't know if that really means anything. I mean, he probably gets kicked out now. It's the people who voted for them? Well, I don't want to say that the people are the problem, but the solution probably does lie in the people. Well, so it does seem like George Santos should have been indicted, but there's definitely a lot of things going on the Democrat side of people that probably should also be indicted and haven't been, hasn't there? It's true. But I don't even know if you have to go that far into it. So apparently there's supposed to be a big thing happen today. So there's been this thing going on that like there was a letter circulated that said that the Hunter Biden laptop story was Russian disinformation, and the FBI and CIA got all these people to sign it and like pass this around, and they did it and admitted that they did it just to help Joe Biden and his campaign. And so it's starting to look more and more like that this was like a genuine corruption story that could have changed the course of the election and really should have prevented Joe Biden from becoming president. And it was buried by the intelligence agencies, which is not the role that the intelligence agencies should be playing. So like that is kind of like brewing, right? And meanwhile, they're trying to figure out what are they actually going to do about Hunter Biden now that it's really obvious that he has been involved in shady stuff. And are they going to indict him, and what are they going to indict him on, and so on and so forth. And one of the guys in Congress that's kind of been investigating this came out and said something earlier in the week saying, that they shouldn't do any charges until they hear what we're putting out on Wednesday. So apparently sometime later today, there's going to be some information that comes out about that I believe will be related to the Hunter Biden laptop and a connection to Joe Biden himself that is going to be very, very unfavorable to the president. And we'll see where that goes. Did it already come out? I didn't see nothing. An hour ago. Biden family, their associates, and their companies received $10 million from foreign nationals and their companies. Maybe. I don't know if that's the actual bombshell or not, but is justice applied equally in this country? I think definitely not. But there's definitely political pressure. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't expect it to be a bunker buster, but it's an interesting story. Now that you complain about the Fed and Biden, I kind of, okay, you have fun with that one. I don't think it's going to work. I don't think you're going to enjoy that path, but you're free to go down that one if you want. What? There's kind of this problem where there are certain things that you as a politician can't realistically fight against. And what I constantly see on the right is that the right wants to go against those big headline items full throttle, right? So like when you say that like we're a two-party state, right? So like the right wants to take the presidency over and abolish the CIA and FBI. Okay? Like that's like some people's strategy. We get a president in there like Donald Trump that's willing to abolish the CIA and FBI and get rid of their influence in Washington, and then maybe we can actually get something done, right? That's not gonna work, man. Because first of all, if the CIA and FBI are so powerful, it's going to be very difficult for you to get in saying that you're going to do something like that. And quite frankly, if you came in and abolished the CIA and FBI, no matter what way you try and present it and everything, the public is probably not going to get behind you, right? The way that you do this is you get small victories and turn them into bigger victories, right? Because as you get those small victories, you're building a coalition, right? If the public or the system is against you, you can't just come in like a wrecking ball. Like that's what Donald Trump tried to do and why Donald Trump was not very effective, right? Because he didn't have what? He didn't have the teamwork side of it, right? He had his people, he had his heavy supporters, but it wasn't enough to get something done. And everybody else hated him and opposed him at every turn. And so it was like impossible to accomplish anything, right? You have to come in and you know, if I was president, I would have come in and said, okay, like what is the one issue that like there is like real agreement on, right? And let's write up a bill and let's get a bill passed on that thing, right? And get Congress working together doing something actually productive first, right? But that's not what happens these days. Is that what happens these days instead is the politicians come in and are like, well, we could pass a bill about this, but then that would mean that the president got a bill passed and that would make him look good. So we can't do that. Right? Did I say Trump was dumb 4 years ago? I don't know. I have lots of mixed feelings about Trump, but after he lost the election, I did not like the way that he behaved. And I'm not even talking about the January 6th thing. It was just like the way that his like cabinet and everything. So like here's the thing. Politicians are not people. They really aren't. You can't think of politicians as people. They are collections of interests, right? And the reality is that if you don't build a coalition, a collection of interests behind you, you don't go very far, right? The whole idea behind Donald Trump was that he could be an executive, that he could hire people that would know what they're doing, and he could just play the executive job and that would be successful. And you know what? There were some times in his presidency where that was kind of what they were doing, and it did appear to be somewhat effective, right? But ultimately it didn't work because as time went on, you found that some of the people that he selected were really bad, and then other people just didn't stick around, right? And after he lost the election, it just fell apart. And then all of a sudden it was just him, and what he was doing and how he was behaving when it was just him was like not there. He's not going to get back. He's not going to be president again. Was basically what I was thinking about. Right. It's kind of funny because we come back to it and it's like, well, who is going to beat him though? I don't know. Right. So there's that side of it. There's also this other issue, which is that like there's some people in the GOP that are so much a part of this establishment and have been there so long that it's kind of like, you know, like this whole thing with TikTok, you know, like the law that they're proposing from TikTok is just like insane, right? But I think it's a comedy. I mean, it's a complicated thing. Okay. Because there's some problems with the political establishment in the Republican Party. Absolutely there is. But like the issue that you keep coming into is that like anybody that actually knows what's going on and has the ability to get something done is going to be like a part of that establishment. Because you look at like the kind of the young fiery upstarts that you get in the GOP and the issues that they attach themselves to, and it's just like, no, I have to shake my head. So like Steven Crowder is a really great example of somebody that was becoming a really big star in the GOP, and since then he's done a lot of things that show that he's really impulsive and wouldn't have been a good person to like lead the party, for instance, right? And the issue that he's been pushing has been get rid of no-fault divorce. Like, there are some real problems with the divorce system in our country, but trying to push, quote, abolish no-fault divorce is like just about the worst idea I can possibly think of. Like, not just that it would be like really bad policy, but it would be like suicidal electoral politics, right? Like if you got to presidential debates and the hottest issue in the presidential debates was, should we get rid of no-fault divorce? The Republicans are just going to get demolished in an election, you know? Let's not get too deep. Yeah, you know what? They started out selling on the S&P 500, but they seem to be, you know, that was like they tested the downside and it seems like they're handling it fairly okay. I would think off of today's news and everything that should be generally positive to the equity indexes, but we'll see. I guess there's this other issue though, is like you have to understand where I'm coming from, the political side, okay? Because a conservative Republican in the Intermountain West is very different from a conservative Republican in South Carolina or Florida, okay? The evangelical conservatives are different, okay? And I am not as sold on some of the things that I see pushed from the evangelical Christian side, because from the whole thing you got to understand that drives the evangelical Christian is their belief in obligation in spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ and all of that sort of a thing, right? So that side of the party usually wants to come in like a wrecking ball on certain things, especially these social issues, right? So like those social conservatives, they would probably be all over making divorce to be the same way that it was in the 70s. I don't think that would be a good idea, right? There are certain things that, you know, the other thing is that side of the party doesn't seem to understand the economics very good, right? They would like libertarianism almost, and like we understand enough about the system to understand that those would be bad ideas, right? and so when people come in and they say, well, but the GOP doesn't fight, it's kind of like, I don't think that people are being very realistic about what they actually want the GOP to do. Because if the GOP actually did come in and do the things that they wanted to do, then you just wouldn't get elected at all. It's not needed anymore. It's never going to work out that way, though, right? The parties will just evolve as the society evolves. Like, I think that coming in and saying we should have some spending cuts in exchange for raising the debt ceiling is like a reasonable approach for Republicans to take. I don't understand, like if your opinion is, well, the GOP should be coming in and putting up bills to abolish the FBI and CIA and do all of these other things, it's not realistic. It's not realistic. Oh, it's almost gonna get filled. I'm surprised I've been able to work this out and hold this for so long, but they get steamrolled. I think they're actually gonna get something. So here's the game theory on the debt ceiling problem. Okay, so if it actually comes down to it, and there is they get past the drop dead date again, then that's a different kind of a thing. Okay, but I think that it's entirely reasonable to require some budget changes here. The public seems to be in favor of those changes. The public seems to believe that if anybody should be giving something up, it's Joe Biden. So, like, right now, the public opinion is actually with the Republicans. And you have to think of it as, like, in order to move the Republicans, right, you have like 250 people that you would have to convince to jump on board with it, okay? And they've all said already that we're not going to just do a clean debt ceiling increase, okay? So, like, who is more likely to break? Joe Biden, who is the one guy that can just say, okay, well, I guess this budget change is acceptable, right? Versus the hundreds of Republicans that you would have to convince to get anything done, right? So it's much more likely that Joe Biden does come in and that they do some sort of a budget deal. And Joe Biden holding out this whole time that, like, now we're just not going to negotiate over that, and we just won't do anything until you agree to do a clean debt ceiling increase, is when you put it in that perspective, is kind of like an untenable position, right? Now, if they go to the drop dead, if Joe Biden holds fast and they get to the drop dead date, okay, that historically has hurt Republicans, right? But, like, Republicans tend to get blamed for it, regardless of which side they're on, whether they're the executive or the Congress or whatever, right? The problem, though, is that Joe Biden is president, okay? When the public opinion is already so negative of Joe Biden, I think that it would probably be very different from the way that it went under Obama, because Obama was generally liked by the public, right? If we got into that fight, I think it would be really harmful to Joe. But the way that the media plays it, it would be rough, and I think it still would be damaging to the GOP. So what you really want to do is you really want to just not get to that point and them, eke out a deal. Yeah, I am really, really skeptical that you're going to get all of the House Republicans on board doing a clean increase. I don't think that they'll do it. I think that these guys, many of these representatives feel that they were elected to only do that. Actually, like realistically, they kind of were. Because really, what legislation is going to get passed? What are you actually doing in Congress? If you were elected in 2022, okay, and you got 2 years, 4 years or whatever, right? What are you going to do? They already like did a deal on the budget, so they can't do anything with like the budget, right? You're not going to pass any deals. You're just going to sit there in Congress, collect your fat paycheck and accomplish nothing, right? And a lot of these guys were like very far right activist kind of types. I really don't think that they're just going to sit there and go like, well, okay, we fought the good fight, but now we have to do the clean. I really don't think that they're going to give in. Like, why take it to that point? You're going to take it to that point where like there's a risk of default, right? And then you're not actually going to get anything from it. And they've played that game so many times before. I don't think that it will play out the same way. I think that especially, and the other thing you got to remember, and we talked about this like several months ago, right? But another thing that you got to remember is that in the past, it was the Senate, right? The Senate was kind of the linchpin where it was like, can we get something passed through the Senate? That is no longer the problem. The Democrats pass the Senate or hold the Senate. Oh, wow. What was that? Some ECB officials start to think a September rate hike may be needed. Whoa. Whoa. Okay, I'm gonna... Damn it. Hopefully they come back to me here. I want to take advantage of that unexpected flow to get out here. That seems to be killing the dollar here, man. Anyways, so it was always the Senate before, and it was like a really close thing. Now that it's the House of Representatives, I think that that's a very different dynamic that you're going to have to factor in as well. That's why I continue to say, like earlier, the market seemed like not very concerned about this as an issue. I am very concerned about this as an issue. I think that things are set up for the Republicans to be very stubborn. And if Joe Biden continues to be intransigent and refuse to budge on this, then the chances of us going into a default are actually very high, I think. And it will do active harm to the dollar. It will. And it's just kind of like when people talk about the Republicans are not doing anything, like, what else can you expect from them? This is the one thing that they can even do in Congress in this term, and they're doing it. So we'll see how it turns out. So far, they've performed quite well. They were able to get a bill together. They were able to pass something. Well, darn, I really wish that I had gotten filled off of that flow, because it seems to be coming back off of that really hard. But that news story that I just heard over the wire is like a big surprise. So the headline was some ECB members beginning to think that they should raise rates in September. Here, while the market is thinking, we're at the end of the cycle, right? That one's enough of a surprise to me that I'm actually a little bit skeptical as to whether or not it's like a genuine headline. Come on. Come on. So you guys, do you really think that they're gonna do a clean debt ceiling increase though? I'm very, very skeptical that it will be like a flat out clean debt ceiling increase. They might make a deal where like it doesn't involve it passing a law. Like maybe they'll make a deal where it's like, okay, we will pass a clean debt ceiling increase in exchange for putting this other bill up later or something stupid like that, right? That's a possibility. But just like a clean debt ceiling increase without anything in return, I would be very shocked if that happened. Come on, come on. I think you guys are letting your cynicism get the best of you here, because everything is set up to incentivize the Republican Party to push this all the way. Like it's really like, I'm not sure how they can justify anybody voting for them if they don't get something out of it. I mean, are they willing to default? I don't know about that one. I don't know about that one, but it doesn't look to me like the Republicans even have the ability to budge, right? Like here, like for instance, it gets to the 11th hour and McCarthy says, okay, you know what? You're right. We can't default. We were wrong. We're just going to give up. Okay. And so then McCarthy goes to the House and says, please vote for this bill. We're going to do a clean debt ceiling increase. It would not pass. Even if McCarthy was 100% behind it, guys. They don't have the ability to, to give in. It wouldn't pass. It's not the same thing with the Senate, where it's like they'll do whatever McConnell tells them to, and you got these two Republicans that aren't really very Republican anyways, right? It's not like that. Or where, like in the Senate, like here's the thing, was in the Senate, when they did this sort of a thing, it was like, it was 48-52. And so all you had to do was convince 2 or 3 Republicans to switch over, and there's ones that are willing to backstab the GOP every time, and so it was easy to get that to happen, right? It's a different situation when you've got 200 Republicans, 250 Republicans or whatever, that they will refuse to do it. I don't think that you will get enough Republicans to switch sides and vote with the Democrats in order to pass a clean debt ceiling increase. Yeah, it is -1. And the margin of error that the Republicans have isn't that great either. They're only ahead by like 9 votes in the House, right? But like all of the stuff that we've been getting out of the House says that there's not enough willing to switch over and do it. And in fact, I dare say that if there was enough Republicans willing to flip over and pass a clean debt ceiling increase, that they would have done it already. You just got to arrest a few more of them. I'm really frustrated that I had a really good headline in my favor and I wasn't able to get filled on it. Well, you're missing that Wall Street loves a show of headlines? Okay. I really hate that everything is now like investigate. I mean, look, the GOP does it too now, right? But the GOP doesn't do anything that they didn't first learn from the Democrats, right? We'll see if anything comes of this investigating Hunter. I mean, it seems like there is enough stuff there to prosecute and get a prosecution on it, but like, will they take it far enough to be meaningful? Yeah. Well, but I also, to be fair though, a lot of the things that the GOP is trying to investigate, there's no there. The Republican base loves to go after things that they have this conspiracy. Like, listen, the things that the GOP base that believes have a lot more to do with their feelings than they really, like it's the right is always the one that's saying that facts don't care about your feelings. You don't kid yourself. Okay. The majority of people make decisions based on their feelings, and Republicans are no different. And yes, most of the investigations that the Republicans end up carrying out end up going nowhere. They're not able to get anything from it because probably like there was never enough of it there to have been, a significant issue anyways, The whole point of the debt ceiling is nothing other than market moving headlines for Wall Street. No, I don't know about that one. Did you see that there was a letter that was signed by like 5 or so different people that were like critical people in terms of like at the big banks, like from Goldman and JP Morgan, in terms of like they're adjacent to that issue, at warning how that it would be very negative thing for the U.S. to default on debt and that sort of a thing. Wall Street is very so go back and look at. Okay, so let's try and think of it from this perspective. Okay, is the situation in terms of like coming to a resolution, is it harder or less hard than last time we were in this situation, right? And what I'm hearing is, the Republicans will just roll over again, right? But that is not what the market thinks, right? When you look at like the financial instruments that we can use to look at this stuff, they're like, it's going higher and it just keeps going. You know why? Because the market is actually like really nervous about it. The market is actually very nervous about it. By that logic, the resulting DNC investigations that take down Republicans are warranted and based in fact. So here's how this works, right? Is the things that you're talking about are like things against individual politicians, as to that individual politician was corrupt, for instance, right? It seems like that the people that are prosecuting these sorts of things are overwhelmingly Democrat, and that there's a bias in what they decide to prosecute. Absolutely the case, okay? Because they're able to catch. There's a lot of Democrats, for instance, Taleb, representative, or what is her name? Is her name Talib? I can't remember. But she's done some shady things in there that are probably prosecutable, and like nobody's done anything on those ones, right? Okay. But what are the things that Republicans are like complaining about and are saying should be investigated? Well, the things that Republicans are saying should be investigated are like Benghazi, for instance, right? The GOP put a ton of attention onto the whole Benghazi thing, did this huge investigation in Congress, and then didn't get anything from it. Right? So they're kind of going after different things. The Democrats are basically, so the Republicans are looking for this big game-changing corruption case that brings down the Democrat Party or the president, right? Whereas the Democrats are going after individual people that they can kind of try and just pressure them out, like what they're doing with Thomas in the Supreme Court, right? Like drip, drip, drip. We'll make stuff up to try and force him to resign, right? They're doing different things. Why don't you see the Republicans do the same thing that the Democrats do? Well, quite frankly, they don't have the ability to be honest with you. Like, the Republicans don't have the people in those jobs. The politicians don't understand those laws well enough, right? To go and try and catch people on technicalities and stuff. They can't. So in particular, Uzi, with the George Santos issue, I would have been really surprised if we had never seen a prosecution based on it, because that guy just straight up lied to constituents about pretty significant things, and in ways that would be in violation of federal laws, and they were really close to just expelling him before. I was surprised that it didn't happen. I don't think that there's in a fair world, I think that one still would have happened. And if you had been able to put out similar information that was as strong against the candidate, against a Democrat person, then something probably would have actually happened from it. But the reality is Republicans have never gotten anything that juicy. Probably because they don't know how to find it. Come on, man. Let's see here. So what did he lie about? Large parts of his self-published biography appear to be fabricated, including claims about his ancestry, education, employment, charity work, property ownership, and crimes of which he claimed to be a victim. Okay, so those ones and alone wouldn't necessarily have been. Okay, he committed check fraud in Brazil in 2008. What is actually in the indictment that they put out here? Let's see. He has been charged on 13-count indictment, including 7 counts of wire fraud, 3 counts of money laundering, 1 count of theft of public funds, and 2 counts of making materially false statements to the House of Representatives. I just think it's silly to think that he wouldn't get prosecuted. Right? Like once that level of information becomes public and becomes a major news story, like something's going to happen. And it would happen if it was a Democrat too. Again, the issue is that Republicans never get that good of information to get put out. By the way, they're trying to do the same thing to Thomas, except for in this case, it wouldn't be like impeaching him, but just like embarrassing him enough to convince him to retire. But all of the things that they're putting out there are actually like not violations and aren't a big deal and can be explained. And he's not going anywhere, right? So I was curious, this movement here, they didn't really, the dollar didn't really move. Yeah, but he's not just being arrested for lying to Congress, right? He also committed, again, 7 counts of wire fraud and 3 counts of money laundering. So... like, if you want to talk about people being unfairly attacked by prosecution of political opponents, right? I think you'd have a better look looking at like what was that military general or whatever that was really pro-Trump and got ousted in the very beginning, and they did this huge thing against him, and then he was found innocent or whatever. What was that guy's name? That was probably the most dirty situation of that I've ever seen. All right, well, I guess I have to give up on this one. Flynn, that's right. Prosecution of Flynn. That's absolutely, yeah. That's absolutely a case where like the intelligence apparatus decided to go after him. Yeah. But George Santos, I'm not really that. I don't think that it makes a difference, and I think that you probably should have expected that one was going to happen eventually. And quite frankly, and like this is the thing that I'm getting at, right? Is like if the big narrative on the Republican side is George Santos is being prosecuted because he's a political opponent and there's unfair prosecution of it, like it's not a take that's going to help you electorally, right? The proper way to present that one politically is to say, well, it does appear that George Santos did some things that were wrong, but here are all of these other people that also did something that's wrong and you aren't prosecuting them. Why not? I'm still bitter about that. My order at 18.5. But I probably should have given up on that one. It was break even instead of -4. I'd still come out positive today though, right? Let's see. No, I have to uncheck that filter. Oh yeah, because I made so much on that original one. That's fine. And I did have some favorable. It wasn't like a terrible trade. So. Yeah. So I'm actually, as we were talking about that, I was like, oh, let's just pull up what they're saying about George Santos on Reddit. The first comment on the conservative subreddit: I don't think there's anyone from either side of the aisle that likes this guy. I guess being universally loathed is an accomplishment in and of itself. Jeez. Oh, he was an analytical, and that's interesting. So it appears to me that mass shootings since 2020 have gotten worse. I still believe that it is a very much like it happens because the media pushes it. I think that if mass shooting happened and the media refused to say anything about it whatsoever, that it would probably, the incident of it would probably go down. Like, I think that the media attention is a major incentive of the people that do these things. Because if it was like you go and you not you, but if it was that a shooter went and shot up a school or whatever, but the only people that heard about it were the people like directly in that community, and the shooter's name was never known, everything about what the shooter believed was never known, I don't think that as many of them would do it. Wow. Okay. Those numbers are bullshit. So what you have to understand about that, Lucas, is that you're talking about different kinds of incidences, right? So like every time that there is a gang shooting in Chicago where a guy driving down the street shoots at rival gang leaders, that is considered as a quote unquote mass shooting, right? That's very different from a person going to a school or other public place simply to kill completely random bystanders, right? So they really shouldn't be piled together, and the media compiles them together to make the number look bad. Yeah, 100%. The media you call it massaging numbers. I think that the media is being intentionally misleading on it, as frankly what I think. I think that these stories are being intentionally like misreported. They're making the mass shootings seem more prevalent than they are. They are attempting to make the coverage as dramatic as possible. This last mass shooting that they had in Texas, they're trying to show bloody photos and stuff like that, and like show as much of the carnage as they can about it, because the media and the left believe that their best chance at getting legislation on gun rights passed is by making a big deal about mass shootings. So they totally... Another thing that I really hate about that, seeing some great sellers, I find this action that we've seen the last like 30-40 minutes kind of actually quite interesting, because it's not just like dying out. It actually kind of looks like they keep pushing up, and that they maybe want to buy more. But I'm not exactly sure where that comes out. No, so the other thing that I really hate is the focus on the ideology of the shooter, right? So when it was that trans guy, everybody on the right was saying, oh, you see, like the transgender activists are becoming violent, trying to show that this is indicative of something larger going on within the transgender movement. Now with this Texas shooting, the guy was like a neo-Nazi, or he had neo-Nazi tattoos at least. And so now they're trying to show this is another example of the violent right-wing extremism that we need to get rid of in this country, etc., etc., etc. Like the reality is that these shooters are always crazy, and that their political ideologies are crazy and aren't very well thought out. And like there is nothing to learn from investigating them other than that like crazy people are crazy. Right. So I wish that the media would change the way that they report these issues, but it's not going to happen because the media is incentivized to present the issue in a certain way, right? Like that's the messed up thing about it, is that the Democrats are going to want to view a story like that because they want to make a story like that as big as possible to increase the chances of there being gun legislation. And the Republicans want to read a story like that because they're afraid that the situation could lead to gun legislation. So what does the media do? They're always going to play that story in a way that gets people most uppity and anxious about what this will mean for gun legislation. And you can see that that's the case because every time this happens, a bunch of people go out and buy guns because they're afraid that they won't be able to in the future. So messed up. Totally, and it's all 100% the way that the media presents the issue. Right? Or to say it better, we need to have structures in our society that are based on more than just like what gets the most eyes, because that's not necessarily what's best for society, right? Can we have a system that encourages the news media to report on an incident like that responsibly? I don't know how you would make that system, but I feel like it has to be done. Because I feel like the whole like letting everything be driven by what is popular is kind of gotten us, so far, and that we can't really progress beyond it now. And that's like the key, like one of the key things holding us back. Yeah, the media. Well, yes, because the humans are so from a personal perspective, here's how you approach this from the personal perspective, is that you need to understand that our evolution is basically programs people to anxiety. So much so that when everything is good and you don't really have any problems in your life, your brain will literally invent things for it to worry about. That's how strong this tendency in people is. And the way that you get around that is you have to develop an attitude of abundance. You have to realize that the world that we live in, resources, prosperity, all of these things are abundant. Okay, like people's attention. Yeah, everybody's looking to be number one. It's a big viral story that everybody watches, and that's what's going to make you a millionaire. Okay, but the reality is that attention on the internet is so abundant that like all you have to do is show up, and you'll get a little bit of attention, and enough for you to be successful with whatever the goal is for the business that you're having, right? You've got to train yourself to see and understand how truly abundant the world that we live in actually is. That your brain is not equipped to deal with that. and that you're going to have to compensate through it with logic and systems and so forth to help you see these things, navigate this world correctly. Because otherwise, you will fall victim to that darker nature that wants to be concerned about everything, right? This is particularly important when it comes to long-term investing, because I have never in my whole life, okay, so like people talk about how crazy good the stock market was in the 80s and 90s, that it was just like this period of unrivaled prosperity. Okay, I grew up as a kid in the 90s. I watched the news as a kid. Okay, you're talking to somebody that like from the age of 8 regularly watched the evening news. Okay, like when I got to ready for school in the morning, when I was in junior high, the only thing that was on TV was Good Morning America, and that's what I watched. Right? I'm 37 now. Okay, I grew up as a kid in the 90s. In the 90s, the news was not telling you about how great the economy was. They were finding all of the problems that there were in the economy and complaining about how bad the economy was, that people still aren't doing well, and that this is a big bubble that's about to pop. It's there's never been a time where they haven't been saying that, right? And yet stocks just continue to go up and up and up and up and up and up. Right? Do you think that later today, after the auction, that the treasuries will actually go a little bit higher? How's your job going? I'd say it's going okay. I've been doing this project and I think we've been doing a pretty good job at it. And I don't know what happens after that, but I don't think about my job so much. I come in and I do it. It's kind of funny because it's like it's most of my time, but no, I wish. 10-year auction is at 1:30 Eastern time, right? And we're going to be shutting the stream down here in like 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. Is America a great country to live? I think so. Yeah, no, you're correct. Biden speaks on a U.S. default is at 1:30. That's at 1 that the auction is at. Or no, sometimes it's not uncommon to see the auction just exacerbate whatever the trend was that day, right? But I'm not really sure what it's going to do in this situation. I am still of the opinion that I think that between 3.5 and 4% is like a reasonable interest rate for the situation that we're in. And I'm still a little bit perplexed about the market's insistence that this must be the peak of the cycle and the interest rates are going to start coming down. I don't think that the Federal Reserve is going to do that. I think that we would really have to see some really concerning bearish data in order for the Federal Reserve to reduce interest rates in July, for instance. So I guess what I'm saying is, seeing the 10-year Treasury below 3.5, I'm just kind of okay, I don't know how far that can really actually go. But so if the auction comes out and it pushes the interest rate even further down, then that's going to be a big wake-up call for me, right? I think one of the things that kind of makes me, I guess I could say, okay at this is that I have spent a lot of time in getting myself to see the positive about this and to be really skeptical about all of the doom and gloom and negativity that we're constantly berated with. I think one of the biggest mistakes that I made in my life was, and I don't even know if this was really so much a big mistake, because it wasn't like it was something that like directly affected me negatively, but it was an opinion that I had that I acted on that ended up being very, very wrong. Was, that the social, I enjoyed the social media and I thought it was great fun and everything. And I thought that everybody would use it the same way that I did. And it wasn't. Like when push came to shove, everybody just became attracted to the negativity and just blew it up. And it turned out that, people didn't use the internet the same way that I did. And that for many of them, it was a very bad negative thing for them. And that was probably the thing that I was the most wrong about, because I thought that everybody getting on Facebook and tweeting like it was on Twitter would be like a great thing, and it was not. It was not. It was not. Okay, so let's change the title of the stream here a little bit. Markets jump on cooling CPI is the way that I'm going to present it. What is going on? What are you talking about? Nothing is going on. We had quite a bit of volatility. It went around. It doesn't look like it was the best action for us. I stayed out. I think it was okay. Oh yeah, I don't know what what NASDAQ is. I don't know what Salim was going on about. Oh, he's just saying hi. Good. We need to think. I would hope, we talked about a bunch of things, but the thing that I would hope it sticks with you, and like I would hope that you think about later in the day, is the thing about teamwork. It's like, what are things that you can do to increase the amount of interaction that you have with your local community and with your family? And what are some activities that you can do that can help with building those values of teamwork? And what are those things that we can do here in this stream and on Discord that can help with that? And so with that, I want to just remind you guys that the Discord is open 24/7. I'm always watching that. I have a guided discussion forum in there where we're talking about, will there be a rate cut in 2023? I would really like to hear your opinions on that. So please go leave your comments in the guided discussion section of the Discord. Also, you can check out all of the links in the video description. They help you out. I've got Jigsaw affiliate links, financial juice. I've been seeing a lot of people move over to Jigsaw, man. It's starting to surprise me, like big time, because it used to be, oh my gosh, it's like a 10 times increase in the number of people I'm seeing go over to Jigsaw through affiliate links. I think that a lot of people were unhappy with Ninja Trader and so forth and are moving over to Jigsaw. I think it might be what's going on. But anyways, just want to remind you that those things are down there too. All right, I better get going, so I will see you guys tomorrow. We got PPI, and that might maybe be a little bit more tradable for us. We'll see. Yeah, Jigsaw doesn't completely replace NT. I think that they're getting close enough to being like acceptable, though. We'll see. They're working on it still. So, all right, but I really have to go. I'll see you tomorrow. Stay excellent.